great.
Hey, well, Jeremy, thanks again so much for being here. I kind of introed our partnership together, and I know we have limited time. So I thought maybe this would be a great chance for you to just share your heart, maybe welcome people, say hello, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, first off, thank you guys for coming. It was a tough game. But I appreciate you guys coming out, and I could definitely hear a lot of you, I don't know individuals, but we could definitely hear a lot of cheers and stuff, so we're very thankful. And then Eugene has been great. This is our third year doing this. One Day's Wages, we're taking a trip to, he probably told you, right? We're going to Haiti in a little bit. I think for me, this it makes it more real than just playing basketball, because that's great, but you know, we get to play in front of tens of thousands of fans and play online, but at the end of the day, we know there's a lot more real stuff going on than kind of this NBA bubble that we live in. And so the fact that you guys are all here supporting just shows that you care about it too, and that's just something that, you know, we've been able to get a lot of attention. And so I have teammates asking me about it. Oh, what's that about? I've had coaches all day asking me. And so I think that's really cool. We're just trying to shine Jesus' light to the world, and we're trying to actively help these kids who, a lot of them just don't have basic necessities just to live or just to get an education, which we know at the end of the day, a lot of it is going to come down to, you know, having an education, having options, and being able to get outside of that cycle that they're kind of stuck in.
That's great. Jeremy, a quick question for you. I mean, we've had numerous people ask us this question: why does Jeremy care about these things? I know it's a basic question, but maybe you just speak to about why you care about this.
I care about it because, you know, through reading the Bible, I see what God's heart is. God's heart is for the lost, for the hopeless, and for social outcasts and things like that. But also, personally, it started when I was in middle school, and I went to pick up one of my teammates. And I was like, oh, you ready for the game? How'd you sleep? And he was like, oh, I didn't sleep well. I was like, why not? And he said, yeah, there's gunshots in the middle of the night. He lived in a really rough neighborhood. And this is one of my closest friends growing up. And so I had a lot of teammates who lived in East Palo Alto, which 15 years ago, or 20 years or whatever, when I was growing up, had the highest crime per capita of any city in the US. And then across the street, you had the very comfortable Palo Alto. And so I was very quickly at a young age able to see the disparity. And also, like, little things, they'd be like, oh, were you trying to go to college? He's like, I don't know, I've never thought about that. Like, no one in my family's ever pushed that, no one in my family's ever gone. So I was very exposed to these type of things. I ended up living in East Palo Alto for 3 weeks in high school just to kind of see what was going on there. And you had fifth graders selling drugs, and it was just, there's a lot going on. And so ever since then, I always said if I had a chance, if I had a platform, I would come back and try to do things right.
You know, a couple of years ago, we went on a trip to Thailand, and maybe you could just share a little bit about what that experience, how that impacted you in some way.
It impacted me a lot just because even in the U.S., like, that's just a nice country, you know? It's like a very nice country. And to get out of that bubble, and so what we did is we visited a lot of NGOs, we learned a lot, and there was sex trafficking, and the way that they get the girls is like they trick them and things like that, and they threaten their families, and then we even had stuff with you know, child pornography and things like, it was just super heavy, you know, like you don't really hear or learn about these things. Like, you're actually on the ground talking to these people, you're seeing some of these girls who have gone through it, or some of these girls that you're trying to prevent from going through it. And when you get that deep into the ground, and when it's that real, like, you don't really come out the same. And so for me, it was great to kind of actually have tangible visualization, or just walking the streets and seeing what's going on, besides just being the face of this beautiful campaign and doing everything online.
Hey, if you guys are interested, it's onedayswages.org/JLin. And Jeremy's inviting people to partner with him. Donate $7, $70, or whatever you want. This is really super cool. I think a couple of weeks ago when you shared about the campaign, Jeremy's coach actually donated to his campaign as well. I thought that was really, really cool. I told Jeremy, awesome. please also tell them to give you more minutes, but that's just my opinion. I hope I don't get in trouble for that. Hey, we got time for a couple questions from you guys. Any questions that you would have for Jeremy, either about this campaign, and we also acknowledge the fact that you're big super fans, and so maybe you have general questions as well. So, any questions that you'd like to share? We've got a question here, young man here in the back.
James.
James, all right, James.
What inspired you to play basketball? Like, and like practice really hard for that?
For me, I was kind of born with it, and what I mean by that is my dad fell in love with the game first and would play all the time. Then we had my older brother. He was just kind of born with basketball in his hands, and so when I came along, it was the same thing. And so I feel like it's something, when you're passionate about something, you can't fully describe or understand like why, but I'm sure everyone here has their specific passions. But it's just like when you do that, you feel very alive, or you feel like nothing else in the world matters. Like when I get on the court, it doesn't matter how my day went, it doesn't matter what's going on at home or what's going on with friends. When I'm on that court, like I'm in a different world, and I just love it, and I can't fully explain everything about it. I know there's certain elements of teamwork and things like that, but at the end of the day, it's just always been something that I just really, really love to do. Whenever I have spare time, I find myself in the gym. When I can't sleep, like 4 in the morning or whatever, I'll just go to the gym and shoot, have fun. Like that's really it's like an outlet for me.
All right, one more question. Right here, all right.
Hey, I sent you that little black prayer journal that you gave me a YouTube shout out on, so thank you for the thank you. How do you find hope in the disappointments that come along through your career? How do you find hope again?
It's a very heavy question, which is a great question. I think, when people look at me from the outside, they see me as a story of inspiration and perseverance and all these things. But even now, even this season, in the beginning of the season, there were times when I thought about retiring, when I thought about not really playing anymore. I don't want to go through another knee injury. I don't want to put myself in that position, or coming back from such a catastrophic injury and it wasn't going the way I wanted, and I have 4 other injuries on the way back of trying to get healthy with this one. So there's been a lot of dark times, and I think keeping a close circle of people around you. So there have been times when I've literally quit and picked up my bags out of my locker and said I'm done, and people talked me back into going in. My family, when I was in my darkest moments, but a lot of it comes back to faith. Romans 8:28 has always been, one of the go-tos for me. Doesn't matter what you're going through, God can turn it into good. God will turn it into good. And sometimes you don't get the result that you want. That's my career is not me sitting here today, 9 years in. It didn't look like anything like I thought it was going to be. I thought after New York it was going to, ups and downs in the upward trajectory, but it's gone completely in the opposite direction. And so there's days where I'm fighting just to continue. Just to let you know, like that's a very real aspect of it, right? Like it's a very real thing for me, where it's like, man, I'm looking around and it's like, man, my career passed me by, the time passed me by. When I finally got the opportunity, I was hurt for 2 straight years. All of a sudden now, I don't really know, everything's kind of flying by. And so I'm trying to figure or make sense of it, but I think that's where faith comes in. And so for me, faith has always given me a grounding to kind of stand on, and I think that's trusting that God loves me and that anything that could happen, like circumstance-wise, is so much smaller than just being loved and accepted by God. That in and of itself, I probably wouldn't have really fully understood without going through all the depths. And so as you go through the depths, that might be something that can encourage you.
Thanks for sharing that. Hey, we gotta wrap up pretty soon. Is that right, Kenzie? Is that the sign right there? And so, again, we're so grateful that you're here. We're gonna be taking one group photo before you guys go, but I know that one of the things that Jeremy really wanted to do this year is to try to encourage and motivate more people, not just to admire and appreciate, hey, look what Jeremy's doing with one day's wages, but to actually join in. And I really feel like in our culture today, it's so tempting to be in love with the idea of doing something and actually not do anything. right? And so we want to encourage you, if you're inspired by Jeremy, check out onedayswages.org/JLin. Make a donation, learn more about the issues of vulnerable children around the world. And again, we're really, really grateful. Kenzie, give us some instructions about how we should take this group photo. Should I have Jeremy on my shoulders? Just to stay here? Great.
Maybe it might be easier if everyone just stands and stay in the row.
Yeah, why don't you guys stand up and why don't we go this way? If you guys can go ahead and kind of line up a little bit, and that way it'll just be